Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cocktails and Rocktails with me, your most notorious groupie, Allison Rouse, author of this little book right here. Not so little, but still nonetheless, these little books as well, my merchandise, where you can get the books, everything down in that description, so go down like it's the back lounge of a tour bus in the 80s. And as you guys can tell, I'm a little bit different looking today. It's been a crazy week, so I'm trying to hurry up and film a few things because I hate, like, I know I've been a lot skiwambus lately, but I really hate just kind of, not doing my best for you guys. And I'm doing my best that I can do right now. Just think of this as like, the original Cool World with Kim Basinger. This is just my cool world at the moment. This is my TikTok world. So people who are joining me from TikTok, that's how you see me mostly. But so thank you everybody for kind of putting up with me lately. Like I say, hopefully over the next couple weeks, I will have everything back to normal here. And what is always normal, I always am just truly, truly thankful of everybody here, of all the love, all the support, all the friendships, all the sharing, the comments, the questions, the ideas, new people, old people, people that were around before, after. Thank you so, so much. Truly, from the bottom of my heart and soul. You guys mean the world to me, so absolutely. And something that meant the world to me as well. Well, this is, a lot of everybody has a local club that growing up, especially in the 80s, that we got to be a part of and got to go in. We might not have been 21, but we still went to go to the shows and the really killer shows. And for me, it was the Speedway Cafe here in Salt Lake City. I mean, this place was compared by the bands, the national bands who came and played. It was compared to CBGB's, but our bathrooms were way nastier than CBGB's. Way. So we're going to talk about that. And because Speedway was my local, I'm doing a little local with our Uinta. This is a limited edition, the Deer Valley Amber. So we're going to see how this tastes. But you know what? Since we're doing the Speedway, I got to have my locals. So everybody grab your locals, kick up your feet, and let's have a little cocktails and rocktails. There's not much because I dropped it and it spewed. I mean, not like Kip Winger, because this is definitely going to be better than Kip Winger. But anyway, grab your locals, kick up your feet, and let's have a cocktails and rocktails. Cheers, big ears. Always love Uinta. I know these guys are national, so if you see Uinta, pick them up, you guys. These guys are really, really good. So, okay, we are going to talk about our local club, the Speedway Cafe. Now, I'm going to put a link down to the description because what I'm kind of talking about is more of this current documentary made by Christian. His name is Christian Rocks. He was kind of an earlier guy from the Speedway, I guess, because he talks about a lot about the formation, which I really, really like. Now, the Speedway was kind of a culmination of a few places, a culmination of the local scene here. Usually we had like the Brick and the 6th Street or 3rd Street Club, whatever. And the 3rd Street turned into the Speedway Cafe. And well, a lot of people don't know unless you've seen the movie SLC Punk. For those of you who are joining me from TikTok, where there was a discussion about SLC Punk, most of you watching this are only in your like early 20s. So someone chimed in that was like 19 years old. Salt Lake City here, I can attest to the punk scene. Oh, girl, you have no idea about the punk scene here. So SLC Punk touches up on it and gives you an idea, but it doesn't really kind of get down to the nitty gritty. So anyway, there was a place, the Brick Street, or the Brick. Brick Street was a whole different bar. But the Brick, which was a lot of people just, kind of the locals, the punks, the poets, that kind of mishmash, rockers, a little bit, kind of came together, had their bands playing. And so Paul and Zay, and I believe it was Dave, all came together and started opening up the Speedway Cafe. Now, in this documentary by Christian, he really does touch up on the origins of the Speedway Cafe, which is good because, I like people to kind of see this because it really does describe our punk scene. Because like I said, we all have our own punk club that we loved, that we had memories, that we saw some of the coolest bands. You know, and the Speedway was just kind of this warehouse. It was somebody's practice pad for a while. And then it turned into the punk club. And like I said, the bathrooms were totally shitty. The sound system sucks. The lighting was mediocre. I'll put pictures up along the way, as you can see right here. This is what the stage looked like. This is with the band. So it was a tiny little stage. But like I said, just the killer attitude, and that really is kind of what drew the locals in and kind of started making it a place for the local bands to really showcase. Because one thing here in Utah that we've always done, as you can tell, we support locals, as I'm sure many communities do. But there was kind of the punk crowd finding their own place to go, their own roots, their own tribe, their own place to let loose. And it was just a really kind of cool place. So when you walked into the Speedway Cafe by the main doors, as you can see here, this is Paul. This is one of the owners that I just absolutely adored. He was one of the sweetest people. I believe he moved to San Francisco, Northern Cal. Because the Speedway closed down, all good things must come to an end, just like, you know, that's just the way it goes. So, but the Speedway was started by musicians, by punks, by rebels, by poets, and it really, really, really hit that vibe. And with this documentary, I think Christian's really kind of doing a good job at showcasing it, but he's not doing a great job at creating this feeling. He's not doing the best job at kind of really embodying what the Speedway was about. Because, yeah, it was a killer local scene. We all knew each other. We all kind of gravitated towards each other. We all came from different walks of life, different neighborhoods, different sides of the valley, north end, south, east, west, and we all converged into this one little place. And so when you walk in, like I said, when you saw Paul, he's standing in the main room, like where you see Paul standing. The garage doors were over here. You'd be facing the rest of the club, the stage and the backstage area back there. So when you actually walked in, there was this kind of vestibule where you'd either pay or show your tickets, stuff like that. And then there was this little room with coolers. And that was the 21 and over room, because you could BYOB. That was a thing back then in the 80s. You could definitely BYOB, but you couldn't drink there, and they could not serve alcohol. So you first walk in, there's this little vestibule, just kind of big and empty. They'd set up the t-shirts there sometimes. Mostly it was by the soda fountain and stuff. But so anyway, there was a 21 over. Then you went through another doorway, and that's where they would sell set up the merch, the t-shirts and stuff for the national local bands, whoever was playing. You had your juice bar with the soft drinks and stuff. And then you walked in, and there was this ramp that kind of curved down into the main area. And at one end of the ramp, as you went down, there was the bathrooms. And they were just nasty as fuck. I am telling you, they were just gross as Josie. Grossy Josie. They were just so disgusting. They were always overflowing. There was never toilet paper. But God knows the tampon and pad machines were always stocked. Soap was always out. I mean, this is a bunch of guys running a club, bunch of musicians and poets and stuff that maybe didn't think about that stuff. And one of the things that Christian does say in the documentary is that they always took care of the bathrooms. I said, what fucking Speedway were you at, dude? Because the Speedway I was at, there was constantly an inch of water on the floor of every bathroom and leaking down into this little, drain in the floor. So he was talking about, oh yeah, they took care of the place very, very well. And they really made it into something that you will never feel again. But they really didn't make much of those bathrooms. They didn't expect the volume that was using those bathrooms. They were just gross. Like I said, always overflowing. Someone always put something in there. There was fucking... What is that? South Park Christmas? Mr. Hanky? Yeah. Always a Mr. Hanky floating somewhere. Okay. But that's enough about the bathrooms. Anyway, so this documentary, I'm kind of really disappointed in a lot of ways. As much as I love that Christian did this documentary, so someone kind of put the Speedway on the map, kind of is leaving our memories behind. It's kind of very short-sighted. It's very much about the origins of the club, and then he talks about a couple of his experiences and local bands and stuff like that. And the Speedway was so much more than just that, the local bands. I mean, so many of my stories, like when we hitchhiked to Suicidal Tendencies, the band, to see their show at the Speedway. Me and Angie and Danny were all picked up by the cop because he wanted to make sure we got there safe. And we got out of the car, pulled right in front of Suicidal's RV, because the bands that played at the Speedway were either on their first tour, had a really crappy tour bus, or no tour bus at all, like RV or a van, stuff like that. So, and we pulled up in front of the RV and get out of the cop car. He lets us out of the back. And where do we go? The guys from Suicidal watched this whole thing. That door went flying open. Like, the Speedway was so easy to get backstage. But that's besides the point. So it's very much, like I said, it's very much his kind of limited experience at the Speedway. And he doesn't really touch on anything but kind of the origin and the opening. Like, this documentary is over an hour long, but the actual story is only 35 minutes. The rest of it is a bunch of local bands that started out the Speedway, started playing the Speedway and stuff like that. There were kind of the original bands that started drawing the crowd, because you got to start with the local crowd. And like I said, Salt Lake City has a killer music scene with local bands, always had, especially back then, the 80s, the early 90s. So he really kind of focuses on that, but what he doesn't talk about is really kind of how infamous the Speedway was. Like, some of the killer bands, and I'll put up this picture again of the Speedway stage. Can you imagine Gwar on that stage? Because Gwar played the Speedway tons. Oh my God, I've seen Gwar so many times. And look at that stage. Can you imagine Gwar show on that stage? They spilled into the crowd because it really wasn't as big as it may look in the pictures. It really wasn't that big of a place. Like, I think in the main stage area, you could probably fit maybe 300. I think. I remember there was a capacity sign, but I never paid attention to it because, I was always in the dressing room, which, if you look at the stage, so you're facing the stage, right here was the dressing room door. And the dressing room was just some shitty 70s brown plaid couch like Lemmy had in his apartment. Yeah, Lemmy, that was an interesting apartment. I love Lemmy, don't get me wrong. He is God. He is a god. He's an amazing human being. I absolutely always adore Lemmy. But yeah, it was kind of like that old brown 70s kind of, not shag carpet, but not, and it was kind of had the shapes in it and stuff, and one of those brown plaid couches. I mean, this place was totally crap. But like I said, in this documentary, I mean, crap sometimes makes the music even that more badass, right? And it wasn't a crap place because of the people, because of the family, because of the bands, because of the energy and the era and everything. But I mean, he doesn't really get into how nationally well it was known. Like I said, Gwar played there on that stage. Soundgarden was opening up for Voivod. And I mean, we're talking Voivod when Jason Newsted was in Voivod. I was at that show. We already knew Soundgarden. Yeah. We'd already been, Danny and I had already been back to and fro Seattle. But like, the Cramps played there. Danzig, it was one of their third shows as Danzig. I spent my 18th birthday there with Overkill, which that one, and all these are down in the description. Someone said I repeat myself. Not really. Some things, a couple episodes I have repeated because they're not high in volume watching, so I repeat them so the people who are new here, who just haven't gone through all the videos yet and stuff, so that it kind of bumps them up. So that's And plus, Alzheimer's and dementia runs in my family. So if I repeat myself, I'm sorry. Terrifies the fuck out of me. I'm sorry it annoys you, but it terrifies the fuck out of me if I repeat something. Okay. So now that we got that out of the way. But anyway, so on my 18th birthday, there was this local opening band, Truce. Is it Rebel Whiskey or Outlaw? I believe it's Outlaw Whiskey, that a couple of the guys from Truce own now, but they still play here in Salt Lake City. Truce, long story about them. My old roommate, Krista, and James Hetfield's ex-girlfriend, Kristen, crossed paths, and then there was a phone call made. But anyway, but Overkill was playing, Truce was opening up for them. And somehow the power was blown, and the guys at the Speedway said, no, Truce, we have a schedule to keep, so you have to get off the stage. I don't care if the power is blown. And that's that kind of all the brouhaha. And it kind of upset me because, Danny and I were very well known among the Speedway family. We were a part of it. I still talk to a lot of the people like Marty and Zay and everybody. Zay actually, he invented these holes for the drums and stuff that kind of took everything. And Neil Peart was a customer of his. So Paul was a musician and a poet, and he was a great businessman, but Zay was kind of who booked the bands and did the handyman and stuff like that. Well, Paul booked the bands, but long story, anyway, but Zay kind of knew a lot of the bands nationally. So, Dangerous Toys played there. Like I said, Suicidal Tendencies, The Cramps, oh my God, Dark Angel with Sean. You guys know, you can tell we're on this too. You can tell Gene, the rest of the band, we still kicked your asses at water guns. Yeah, we had a water gun fight and we won in heels and mini skirts. And that was another thing. The Speedway had such crappy sound, such a crappy bathroom. It was basically an old warehouse kind of thrown together. And that's kind of the magic of it. But he didn't talk about all that. He didn't talk about, like, the groupies made Danny and I and Charlie Ann and Kristen and Angie and Cammie and stuff. We made, for the national bands that came through, we made it forgettable that the venue was such shit. As far as technically wise. Like I said, energy and stuff, because, like, Dream Theater played there, oh my God, there's just so many I can't even go through. Like, I've got DRI, gosh, I can't even, Junkyard Testament, so many bands. Nirvana was supposed to play there, but they canceled. I believe Alice in Chains, like, that was a stop at the beginning of grunge, because I watched this club go from grunge, and then, like, Dirty Looks play there, so they had their glam metal and stuff, like Junkyard, Dirty Looks, Dangerous Toys. Then they had their punk, like Gwar, and God, who was the guy, Uncle Slam, people like that. It was just such an eclectic place for music. So for me, this documentary really doesn't do it justice. And then the guy goes on to say, he's like, and eventually I became the medic of the Speedway. Where the fuck were you when we had to tape a pad onto Cammie's nose or Cammie's chin because there was no first aid kit? I believe you, Christian. But where were you when she fell over the curb and we taped the pad? Where was the first aid? I didn't see no medic. Never saw any medic there. Trust me, I moshed in that pit with my miniskirt and heels because, trust me, people never, ever trust a woman in a mosh pit with miniskirt and heels. Those heels are weapons. You think we're just stupid Sallies in that, man? Nope. I learned that at the Speedway. But like I said, the Speedway just kind of had this magical thing. In LA, it might have been the Roxy or somewhere like that. In Vegas, it was, what was that place? In Seattle, it was like Rock Candy and the Off-Ramp and stuff. But we got, like I said, killer shows there. I saw so many bands there, had so many nights that you can tell I just can't even remember. So for me, and I'll put up passes and stuff, like I said, that's where I very first met Dirty Looks. That's where I very first met Testament, where we hung out with Voivod, where we reconnected with Soundgarden because Danny and I had already spent time in Seattle for like 6 months and came back down to Salt Lake City in a roundabout kind of way. I mean, and the movie SLC Punk is 100% centered around the brick Speedway, you know, those clubs here in Salt Lake City. Of course, there was rafters and stuff, but the Speedway just had something extra magical. Like I said, I don't know if it was a combination. It was definitely the people behind the Speedway and the bands that they were booking and, you know, the music. But then it kind of really started getting straight edge. And at the time, straight edge was really actually kind of a not so friendly group. You know, they shaved their heads. They wore combat boots with red shoelaces, big X's on their hands. So when I saw James Hetfield with that 1,000 years ago, I was like, dude, wash that shit off. I mean, unless you mean it, which looking at his girlfriend. But anyway, so in the Speedway, we took other bands to the Speedway when there was cool local bands playing or stuff. And we wanted to get out of, and they just absolutely adored it. Of course, even the bathrooms, and they loved how we could always go in and steal beer from the 21 and over room. Because we did. If you were underage, you were in that 21 and over room saying, yeah, that Blue Moon, that's mine. Yeah, I'll take one of those. The guy who brought him in said they could. You mean Marie? Yeah, Marie, that was her. She said I could have one, you know, so we were always in there. And there was a lot of other things that kind of sprung up out of the Speedway. Like I said, Truce was already kind of big, but they really had a home there. There was a lot of bands, especially the local punk bands, that had great opportunities to open up for national acts and kind of get out there a little more and even go back out on the road. So this Speedway was kind of really that melting pot and that place where we all truly, truly converged. You know, I was talking about in my previous episode that we don't know how to connect anymore. And even at small clubs like this, people are so disconnected. But I mean, tell me what you think, because like I said, we all had our own Speedway growing up, especially in the 80s, 90s. I don't know about now. I know there's still venues like that. Like here, there's the Urban Lounge, and rumor has it that the Speedway is going to reopen, but they'll never recapture what it was. Just like all these people on TikTok, all these girls trying to look like what they 80s video vixens and groupies. And I think you guys are great. I think you're beautiful, but you're not going to capture what the spirit was. And the spirit of the Speedway was, like I said, this really, really odd mix of total shit club, crappy bathrooms, people running wild, the family vibe, the local people who kind of built it up was really kind of what the Speedway, the vibe was. Like I said, just like at CBGB's, just like at the Troubadour, just like at the Rainbow, just like, you know, that's what the Speedway was. Well, here the Rainbow was really more about rafters, but a lot of the same bands that played the Speedway also played rafters. And the Speedway, I'll direct you guys. I'll also put the link to the Facebook, to the Speedway family page, because you can see, and here's a picture of me and Cammie. Danny's blocked off there with Gene and everybody, but this is us with Dark Angel after the water gun fight that we won, Sean. We won, you guys. We won. I'm kidding. No, I'm not. But so if you look up at the back, I mean, every band that came through town, they put on the walls this is the juice bar area where the Cokes were, the, you know, Sprites, machines, stuff like that. And Danny and I would work that Sprite. Well, we'd tell them we'd work it, and then we'd get bored. Like, we'd be like, but the band's in there, you know, within an hour. We'd be like, all right, everybody just get your own drinks. Because they were free anyway, so just go back and get your own damn drinks. We weren't being paid, you know, so. Of course, I'm hightailing it to the crappy backstage area on the couch that God knows where it came from and who was sleeping on it before. Ooh, I have to think about that. Oh, yeah, King Cobra played there. King Cobra was Carmine Appice's, and on that stupid Who's Dated Who page that doesn't even have my date of birth right, it's It says I slept with the bass player King Cobra. No, it was the lead singer Johnny, not the bass player Johnny. It was the lead singer. Danny was with Carmine. On more than one occasion, she had already been with him Blue Murder. But anyway, like I said, it kind of disappoints me, this documentary, just because it is, and I love to hear his side of the story and his view of it. Don't get me wrong, I love that he did this documentary because I was hoping that someone would do it, or I was going to do one. But like I said, it's very, very short-sighted. It's very, very contained, which why when you go down to the link, it's only about 30 minutes that really talks about the Speedway, and he doesn't talk about the national acts. He doesn't talk about the mosh pits and like the punkers hanging out with the glam rockers, It was just like this, such a crazy eclectic, some bikers mixed in, some thrash metal kids. Like I said, I've seen Gore like 3 times just at the Speedway alone. So like I said, it does kind of make me sad that it's very short-sighted. But if you do listen to the rest of the documentary, I recommend it, because these are local bands that helped start the Speedway. And you can see that we had some killer music going on here in Salt Lake City at the time. I mean, SLC Punk, it really doesn't do the punk scene justice. It doesn't do, and you know what? I think in my second book, I'm going to include more about the Speedway, because I think it is important to really know that part of rock and roll history, to really know, keep the old club, small band vibe alive. Like I said, we've all had one. So everybody go down in the comments and tell me what it was in your town. If it's still going on now, groupies. And ladies, always take the pressure off the band at these small clubs where things might not be as easy as a big arena, and show up. Because the groupies at the Speedway, we stopped a few bands from walking away because the sound was so shitty for a while. The bathrooms were crap. It was just like I said, it was just like a big old garage with a stage and a sound system and some lighting. But that's what was brilliant. So a lot of bands, when they would try and do sound check, they'd want to leave. But no, here was Danny, Angie, me, Kristen, Cammie, here we were, making those boys happy. Well, you're going to leave us? And Paul and Zay counted on us to do this. And their riders were very, very minuscule. I mean, it really was like, we're going to go to the grocery store, buy a couple deli platters, order you a few pizzas after the show, and that's it. You'll get maybe a couple 12 packs of beer to go along with it, if you were like Danzig or Overkill or someone with a bigger name, so. But all right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed today's. I hope you guys go do check that link out. Tell me what you think after you watch it. Tell me what you think about the music from the time in Salt Lake City, because this is the music that brought SLC Punk to life. This is the scene that brought SLC Punk to life. So tell me about your Speedway. Tell me what you think about the music. Tell me what bands you got to see on a stage that you didn't think would hold them. And Lord knows we didn't do pyro in there. We did not pull a Great White. That's damn sure. But all right, you guys, and thank you to everybody who got to the end of the episode with me. As always, thank you so much. And I'm sorry if I do repeat myself, but I get excited to talk about things, and I do kind of go off in tangents, but that's just me. That's my personality. We all accept each other here, so cool beans. And speaking of accepting, you guys who are just lurking around, hanging out in the 21 and over room or in the nosebleeds, come on down to the general admission. Get your asses backstage. Hit the subscribe. Hit the share. Become a member so you can see members only lives. And you can have your questions answered. Although I do answer everybody's questions. But thank you guys. So hit the share. Hit the subscribe. Hit my bells. And we will see you next time on Cocktails and Rocktails with more local stuff. Cheers, big ears.